Hey everybody, welcome back. Today I'm going to do a review of my FNP-45 Tactical. Now if you guys know about this gun, you've been researching it maybe in the last couple years or so, you're going to be like, no man, that's not an FNP, it's an FNX, you're an idiot, you don't know what you're talking about. Well, if you look right there on the side of the slide, this is an FNP-45 Tactical. The only difference between this and the X is the name. That's it. When I bought this gun, the FNP 9s and 40s were still readily available and a thing, and they made this gun and they just called it an FNP-45 Tactical. But then they made some changes to the FNPs, and long story short, now we have the FNXs. They look slightly different on the outside as far as I know and can tell. They're the same on the inside, but they've started calling this the FNX-45 Tactical. Fun little tidbit that you didn't care about right there. But what is this thing? Let's start talking about that. So this is a 45 ACP handgun that, for the time it was invented and designed and marketed, had a lot of really cool, really innovative features about it. So let's jump in and just start talking about some of those. We'll start at the bottom / back and work our way up and around. Magwell here has a nice funneling to it. It may not look like much in the camera, but that's actually a pretty significant funnel at the bottom of the magwell. This thing does, by the way, take 15 round 45 ACP magazines. This is the extended version. The flush fit version holds 14 rounds, but still 14 plus 1 or 15 plus 1 of 45 is no joke. If you're a 45 guy and you don't own this gun or the non-tactical standard version of it, in my opinion, you're wrong. I mean, if you tout 45 and that's like a thing, you can't argue with that much 45 ACP in one round. Stuff's pretty awesome. This gun does come with 3 of those magazines, by the way. It comes with 4 different back straps to it that you can change out. 2 of them are this flush fit design, and 2 of them are the extended, slightly more humped style design. And the differences between them are that 2 of them, one of the flat and one of the hump designs, have just lines, horizontal lines across the back, and 2 of them have this pyramid diamond style pattern that you see on the sides on there. So you can choose your size and you can choose your stippling pattern, if you will. Now, while I'm talking about it, I have stippled the back strap and the front strap of this gun just to give me a little bit more grippiness and texture. If you guys have watched the channel for any length of time, you know I like a very grippy grip on a pistol. I like it to be nice and aggressive. And for me, I like the horizontal lines better because they didn't dig into my hand under recoil, but they weren't aggressive enough for me, so I decided to just put some stippling on there. But enough about that. Let's keep talking about the gun. Got a nice deep undercut back here so that you don't get any kind of hammer bite. I mean, I get literally 0 hammer bite with this gun. Even if I get a nice high grip, it never contacts that webbing right there of my hand. So nice and protected. This is a double single action gun, which means that it has that first round double action pull. This thing is clear, by the way. We just checked it, but that first round double action, and then every round after that is going to be single action, and it has a decocker / safety as well. So talk about that a little bit. You can safely decock the gun if there's a loaded round in the chamber, and you can carry it on safe. So you can either carry it with the hammer down, or if you're a 1911 guy, you can carry it cocked and locked. It's not quite as positive as a good 1911 safety, so that wouldn't be my first choice, but your mileage may vary. The way that this is accomplished versus something like a Beretta decocker is it actually only decocks to half cock. So if you pull the trigger, you have the hammer all the way down resting on the firing pin like that. You have half cock right there, and then of course you have fully cocked single action mode. If you decock the pistol, it only goes to half cock as opposed to all the way down. So it never actually hits the firing pin. Has fully ambi everything. The mag release is completely ambi. I'll show you guys that with a magazine. So magazine in, comes out, magazine in, and comes out. So works either side. It's got an ambi slide stop / side release on both sides. Obviously the safety / decocker, completely ambi. So you can use that on either side. It also comes with suppressor height 3-dot tritium night sights that have the white outlines, and the front sight is a different color tritium than the rear sight. That's my personal favorite setup of night sights. Suppressor height, 3-dot, white outline, front sight different color than the rear sight as far as the tritium goes. So for me, that is perfect out of the box. Don't have to do anything with it. These are Trijicon sights, and you can get replacements for them if you have this gun long enough that the tritium dies on you. The reason this comes with suppressor height sights, by the way, is because it does have the threaded barrel here, which we'll get to in a second. And dun, 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 this gun actually has a optics cut in the slide from the factory. Now, these days with like the Glock MOS and the CZ optics ready P10s and all these guns, you know, Springfield, pretty much everybody's making an optics ready gun from the factory. So it's like, okay, cool, they jumped on the bandwagon. No, these guns, let me actually go look up when this gun was first introduced. I'll be right back. Alright, so best information I can find from a quick Google search is that this gun was introduced around 2007. So over 10 years ago. And they were including an optics cut from the factory. Well before Glock and Smith & Wesson and SIG and whoever else decided to start doing that, which in my opinion is awesome. That is the way of the future for handguns as far as I'm concerned. Red dots are awesome on rifles these days. If you don't have a red dot or a magnified optic on a rifle, at least a tactical rifle, a combat, self-defense, duty style rifle, people look at you like you're nuts. Red dots for pistols, I think, are going to do the same thing. 10, 20 years from now, it's going to be standard, in my opinion, my prediction, to have a red dot on a handgun because it gives you so much more capability for the gun. But enough about that. It has forward and rear slide serrations, which again, fairly revolutionary for its time. Most guns around that era did not have forward slide serrations that I can remember at least. So that kind of shows, again, this is a very forward-thinking gun. Works well for press checks. And of course, you can rack the slide and do your thing with the rear ones just like you always have been able to do. External extractor here, and this extractor does actually have some paint on there, some red paint that has mostly worn off on my version, so that when there's a round in the chamber, which there's not, this thing sticks out. It's very tactile, and it's also a visual indicator that it's loaded. It serves as a loaded chamber indicator, something like a Glock does. For me, I just do press checks. I don't trust loaded chamber indicators, even if they are just the extractor. Not my cup of tea. But it's there if that's your thing. Has a polymer trigger, which that's one of the dings I'm going to give it. I do wish it had a metal trigger, especially for $1,000 or so. I think I paid $1,023 for this gun. I'm not sure what they run these days, but probably somewhere in that ballpark, $1,000, $1,050, $1,100, $1,200, somewhere in there. It has a polymer trigger. I wish it had a metal trigger. That's just me and my own personal weirdness. Full pick rail up here with your serial number plate buried in it. That's really cool. I like to see multiple slots on a pick rail. Not that you'd really be able to put much back here, but I like that it's a pick rail. It's just standard. It's industry standard. It's not anything proprietary like a Glock or something like that. Extended threaded barrel here. Does come with the thread protector that you see, and it's threaded, I can't remember what the thread pitch is. It's whatever your standard American, that's important, your American 45 caliber thread pitch is. So it's not the weird European thread that my Mark 23 is. Your standard American thread adapters will work for that. And if you're a suppressor guy, you're going to know what to put on there. At this point, I only have one suppressor, and it's a 30 cal rifle suppressor, so I'm more familiar with rifle thread pitches than I am pistol ones. Sorry, guys. Not much else to say about the externals of the gun, I guess. There's your takedown lever. And I guess while we're talking about that, let's go ahead and take the gun down. So, in order to take it apart, you make sure it's unloaded. Lock the slide to the rear. Check the chamber, just like always. And then from this position, rotate that lever 90 degrees downward, release your slide, let it go forward, and it comes off the gun. Super, super simple. From there, take your metal recoil spring and guide rod out. I really like that this is metal. That's perfect. They could not have done anything better with that. I hate plastic guide rods. If you know anything about me, you know that. And it's got a flat wire spring that's captive on the guide rod, so it's not going to come flying off on you. I like that too. Perfect example of a recoil spring. Glock, pay attention. That's how you do a recoil spring. I love Glocks, but I hate Glock recoil springs. Anyway, then from there, you're going to have to take the thread adapter or the thread protector off, or if you're running a flash hider, a compensator, a suppressor, whatever, take that off. Tilt your barrel up, pull it out of the slide, and boom. Barrel's well made. It's got some marks on it from recoil. I've shot this gun a decent amount. Very nicely polished feed ramp. Like, that's mirror finished. That's super nice. Nice locking lugs here. It is a Browning tilting barrel style action. Pretty good crown on the barrel there. You can see, well, maybe you can see the threads. Not the threads, the lands and grooves, what I meant to say. Slide's really heavy, but it's a 45, so that kind of makes sense. A lot of mass to the slide. Well machined. Does have a firing pin block right there, as you guys can see where my thumb is. I'll show you the breech face. Again, just a very well-made slide. I mean, it's an FN gun. If you guys know anything about FN, they're known for their quality. I'm sure they've put out lemons in the past. Any company is subject to put out a bad gun. But I love FN guns. They're just, you know, for almost 100% sure they're going to work right out of the box. One thing you don't want to do, that I don't recommend doing, is decocking this, or definitely not pulling the trigger when the slide is off the gun. If you're going to do that, at the very least, hold tension on that hammer and slowly let it forward so that you don't end up damaging any of your internal components here, because there's not this big heavy chunk of steel to absorb that impact. But you're going to want to leave it cocked anyway for reassembly. So there's your ejector right there. It's got this really sharp point to it, but it's got this interesting curve to the back, which kind of looks weird, but if you think about it from a mechanical standpoint, it makes sense. That actually, I think, makes it fairly strong. Gives you really good positive ejection. I've never had any malfunctions with this gun at all. At least not that I can remember. I've had this gun since 2011, so it's been a while, but it's always worked well for me. I don't ever remember having any problems with it, and that ejector I don't have any concerns at all with. Obviously, your very complicated internals, because it's a double single action design. There's your ambi slide stop, slide release, your metal frame block for the barrel to sit against, and your very long front steel guide rails for your slide. Also your rear, actually fairly substantial on their own rails for the slide. They're not as big as these, but they're more substantial than like something on a Glock or something like that. A little bit more of meat there for the rails of the slide to ride on. Other than that, polymer frame, most likely cast some way, but fairly well done, especially on the outside. It looks like it's finished very well. Nothing much to say about that. Reassembly is the exact opposite, fairly straightforward. Take your barrel with the threaded end, put it towards the giant hole in the front of the slide with the lugs up, pop it down into position. At this point, I typically take my thread protector and thread it on. Now, this thread protector does only go on one way. You can't put it on backwards. So that's something to note. It just only goes on that way, and I really cinch that sucker down, just because if you have a handgun with a threaded barrel, you know that thread protector is going to loosen as you shoot it. There's just no way around it. So you have to check that every now and then, making sure you're careful, obviously. You know, guns unloaded, slide lock to the rear, point in a safe direction. Don't put your hand in front of the muzzle, all that good stuff. But you have to check it every now and then to make sure that it's tight and it's not going to come off while you're shooting, and now you can't find it because it's in the tall grass at the range. Anyway, recoil spring, take your nubby end, as opposed to your silver flat end, towards the front of the gun. Put it in the hole, compress it, and put it on its little perch on the barrel. Take your grip, line up your rails with your slide, just like so, all the way to the rear. And I can't remember, one thing that I just remembered about this gun is if you don't have your recoil spring in the exact right spot, it will catch somewhere up in here before it's supposed to catch. And that will cause your gun to not go back together all the way. But if you have it in the right position, it goes back together just fine. Lock your slide to the rear, flip your lever up, and you're good to go. Pretty simple. Now this gun also comes with at least this version of the gun, comes with a case. It's a nylon zippered range style case, about yay big or so. And it comes with a slot in there for your pistol to hold it securely. A double magazine pouch. So you can hold your 2 spare magazines plus the 1 in the gun makes 3. It has a slot for its little pouch for your stupid little lock that comes with the gun that nobody ever uses. But you can also fit a 45 caliber suppressor in that, depending on what model of suppressor you're running. It's got a little pouch on the inside that holds all the mounting plates for your different kinds of red dots, and you can mount RMRs, some different Dr. optics, Burris, and at least with the mounts I got with this gun, that's about the extent of the mounting options that came with this gun. But again, I bought this in 2011, 2012, somewhere in there. So there weren't really a lot of other options for handgun optics at the time, at least not red dot style optics. I'm sure there are companies out there, if not FN themselves, other companies are making optics for the Leupold Delta Point Pro or the Aimpoint Acro. I'm sure they're going to have a mount for that because I see that as being an extremely popular optic here in the next few years or so. So you've definitely got options, and if not, you could always have a custom mounting plate machined if you wanted to mount a different red dot to your version of this gun. The pistol case is basically designed so you can just take that with you to the range, and it's got everything in it you need. It's really nice. I think it's a good touch. I personally don't care if my gun comes in a crappy cardboard box or a really nice fancy case or box of some sort. Doesn't matter to me. I don't keep my guns in their original boxes, but I do kind of like getting cool stuff with my gun that's not just the gun. I mean, everybody does, right? So I like that touch. I will say one downside, besides the price of the gun being over $1,000, the price of the magazines. These things are about $45 to $50 a piece, if I remember correctly. So not super cheap, and they are very wide. Now the gun doesn't feel huge in my hand. It's not nearly as big and wide and bulky as like my Mark 23 is or something like that, especially with the flat back strap on it. But the magazines are very wide, so you're going to have custom magazine pouches for this. They won't fit in most of your standard double stacked magazine pouches. So something to consider when getting this gun, but if you're going to spend that kind of money on a gun like this, you're probably okay with buying a custom holster and a custom mag pouch and all these different things anyway, and a little bit more expensive magazine isn't going to bother you either. I paid $60 a piece for my Mark 23 magazines, so I can't really say much. Other FN handguns, like I know I have a 5.7, which I have a review on, by the way. If you're interested in that gun, go take a look. As far as I know, most of their handguns come with 3 magazines. I think the non-tactical version of this, with just the standard height sights and the non-threaded barrel, comes with 2 15-round magazines and 1 14-round flush fit magazine. I had a friend of mine that had one of those, and he loved it until he got rid of it because he wanted to carry something else. 3 magazines is a pretty good value. I think that's a good touch on FN's part. I always like to see a company include more magazines with their handguns, just because you should probably buy more anyway in case they end up getting banned or they malfunction on you or something like that. You got to get rid of one. At least you have some backups, right? Now you can also get this gun in flat dark earth, and the frame as well as the slide are both going to be flat dark earth if you get that option. It's a really cool looking gun. I kind of wish I had gotten that version instead. But at the time, I actually thought flat dark earth was dumb. I know. I was an idiot, right? I didn't like the way it looked. I would have rather just had a solid black gun. So my dumb ass decided to just buy the black gun. Plus it was like $50 cheaper. So I was a college student. Like, I'll save $50, get the black gun, and call it good. And the difference is, like I said, the gun is FDE if you get that version. The base plates on the magazines are FDE. And the nylon case it comes in is FDE if you get that version. Those are the only variants of the gun I know. Just the standard version, the tactical in black and FDE. And that's it. I think you can get the standard in FDE too. And I think you can also get the standard with a silver finished slide. Not a big fan of shiny guns, so I definitely wouldn't want that. But I think that's everything about the gun that I wanted to say. I mean, there's a lot of stuff I want to do to this, obviously. I want to put a light on it, a red dot, get some cool holsters and stuff for it. But I don't carry 45. I typically carry 9mm, and this is a relatively big gun. Although I have concealed carried this before. It's not too hard to do, especially outside the waistband. You can do it. It's just it's a big, heavy gun. I mean, it weighs a lot. There's a lot of weight to it, especially when you add 16 rounds, the way I carry, full mag, one in the chamber, 16 rounds of 230 grain freaking 45 ACP. That's not light. I mean, then you gotta carry extra magazines and stuff. So I typically go with a 9mm for those reasons. But it is a really cool gun. It shoots like a freaking dream. It's got an amazing barrel on it. It's more accurate than I am. Not a whole lot of recoil to it. I like the double single action, even though that first trigger pull is kind of heavy on this model. It's heavier than most of my Berettas are. Don't have a trigger pull scale, but I would tell you what it was if I did. Overall, I love the gun. It's expensive. It's not going to be a budget gun for sure. It's not going to be a gun that you're going to buy and then go out and trash. Like, you're going to want to probably take a little bit better care of it. I've heard from some people who know some armorers on different kinds of handguns, like, you know, departments and stuff, that this thing is a beast to work on the inside. Just because of all those parts and stuff, I would not want to take this apart myself. Plus, it would probably void the warranty, and it's not a cheap handgun in the first place. But I love it. I mean, this is absolutely one of my babies for sure. And taking it out to the range and putting some big 230 grain ball ammo down the pipe is a dream for sure. And it reminds me why I fell in love with 45 in the first place, even though I carry 9 all the time. So that's all I got, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Really appreciate you watching it. If you did like the video, please subscribe to the channel, support the work. Also, give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends, especially if you feel like you got some kind of value out of this video. If there's something that you would like to know about this gun, or another gun that you'd like to see a video of, or anything else, just post that down in the comments and let me know. I'll respond to you guys' comments. So, thanks for watching, guys. I really can't tell you how much I appreciate it. Y'all have a great day. Take it easy. Roll Tide. And I'll see you later.